what we have here, and I'll probably start at the very beginning just to sort of show how these things happen. In my world, we call them overtime tasks, but we have like data manipulation tools these days, so I can spin up a demo environment in Microsoft Cloud very easily, and then just spin a whole load of data in. And this is, again, how things have changed a little bit, that with something like this, I can then go, all right, brilliant, what's going on with this? Right, we've populated a demo environment with 6,000 records. I'm going to need them because I'm going to show some of the machine learning models in the background, so I need a bit of data for that to work on. And so we see, then we have a look at that environment, and we got something like this. So I've then got like a view of all the historical data. I still come a little bit from an asset management background, so I've used kind of properties as an example here. It's a little bit like, as we'll go through, how you could request information about the property market. So we'll see that a little bit, but I still kind of come a little bit from property. So I've got a whole lot of basically fictional data here that we kind of mapped up and imported into this environment. But again, things are a lot easier these days. That's what, 5,000, 6,000 records. We just pump that into an environment we spun up for this demo. So it's kind of that easy sort of, there's not some big migration job behind the scenes. And then really what we have in here is then Microsoft would call it a model-driven app, which is basically a dynamic CRM for people who've been around a little bit like myself. That then gives you an ability to then build a screen to capture your information, capture your business process, capture a bit of workflow. Very traditional app building. And we've got then the ability to add fields in here, track different things, put little calculations in. So here we've got like a little things that are looking at a few dates there and then telling them the number of days between fields. Very simple stuff, but it's then kind of very much out of the box functionality these days. I don't need a developer to go away and build how many days it took for a property to go from sale agreed to an exchange date. Obviously, that's just something we using out the box tools. And that then gives us a sort of bit of information to then look at. So here, for this example, I'm capturing that information. I'm doing different bits with it. I've built my sort of basically my database in a traditional sense, and that's my model-driven app in the cloud. And that is built using essentially very much no-code tools. So I flip over into all these windows. We've then got different tables in here. I can look at the different columns. I can then interrogate how that information is being captured. And similarly, where we've got things like calculated fields, if I go and find some of those fields we referred to earlier, so days to market, I can go in there and see how all of that's done. And that is pretty straightforward. That's been in sort of these sort of systems for a long time, doing calculated fields, building those in non-code ways and looking at how that works. And that has then, it's all sort of front end really, where we can add new fields, we can build new things, we can change how that form looks, we can change how the views look. And that gives us sort of like the backbone of that system where we just go, all right, days to market, it's just on market date minus the instruction date, boom, market date versus instruction date, that's how many days it took to get a property to market, something like that. And that can track in almost anything really. You can track the number of days that we took to respond to a service request, number of days it took us to process a legal case, anything like that. And that gives us the ability just to get our data right initially. Not terribly exciting, but obviously it gives us that backbone. But we'll see how we then put that backbone to use later on. Now, obviously that's great. We've got an internal system. We can do different things. We can do workflow, we can do automation. Good to a point, but really, I don't really want to just do that. What I then want to do is I want a little bit of collaboration on here so that if I've got this particular new property popping up into Power Apps, I then want to be able to just track documents against it, do a basic sort of database capture. So if I've got any particular case, I can then track various different documents to that. And this uses some of our technology. We've built this through, actually, I think I'll probably do this by a bit of drag and drop instead. So we've then got our sort of technology here, which then just integrates Dynamics with SharePoint. So as I said, I don't need to really care where those things are going. I can just drag and drop different things in and get them into SharePoint. So I've got my sort of document management there. That's better. So then I've got my sort of document management. I can group my documents by different categories, give them metadata, and then sort of say, right, how these documents fit into my property. So I can build up the portfolio of documentation that I've got. Again, it's mostly the data here, just getting the data right, getting documents right, putting file attachments in, but it's simple. With me as a user, I don't need to worry about where this is going or whether it's jumping into SharePoint behind the scenes. It's just there. And similarly, if I need to categorize that, I can drag and drop that around categories. So I've just mocked up a few there from the sort of property life cycle. I can put those in and then just tag the information that I need to. So I've got easy access to documents. And the reason that works really is that once that's over here in our sort of Microsoft SharePoint behind the scenes, I can do big global searches on that. I can do keyword searches. I can do cognitive analytics on the documents to then go, right, I'm looking for this particular piece of information. So it then links up and goes, right, you started tracking this information in Microsoft's Power Platform, that's great. But then because it's also in SharePoint, you can then use SharePoint's functionality to its best use. But where Microsoft has struggled a bit with that in the past is that people don't really want to go, oh, I need to learn 7 different systems. So it's just there within Power Apps effectively. And you've got like nice little tools like drag and drop, generate new documents, work out how you categorize things without people having to run around different bits of SharePoint. And that just then links the two systems together. So you've got like the best of both without having to stress about different project life cycles and installing new bits of software. And then what we get in there is we get a little bit of tag which says, well, it's great that we track all this information and we've got all of that in our sort of useful elements here, but really what we want to do is we want to share that with a customer. I don't really just want a whole lot of information sat in my database, sat in my SharePoint. I want the customer engaging with that, and that's where portals come in.